There's no doubt that if Putin wins here, Moldova will be next. You know, the president's words applied to Russia, not Ukraine, but he always seems to get it switched. And it really does anger me. It's probably done more to undermine my confidence in the president than anything else. When something's very wrong, I cannot pretend and try to ignore it. The president's handling of Putin and Ukraine has been a travesty thus far.
Educate, inform, inspire. The Dan Parsons Show. A podcast that lifts up instead of tearing down.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Dan Parsons Show. I'm your host, Dan Parsons. Coming up on today's show, Congressman Don Bacon returns to talk about tariffs, the war in Ukraine, Epstein, and the congressman's future political plans. But before I introduce the congressman, a big announcement. We're having a party, and you are invited. On Tuesday, September 23rd, we're celebrating, believe it or not, our 1-year anniversary with a live recording of our 100th episode. Join me and VIP guests from the show at Lincoln's newest cocktail bar, Sideshow Speakeasy in the Haymarket. Doors open at 5:30, followed by a live recording featuring fan favorites, State Senator Danielle Conrad, and Republican political consultant Ryan Horn. Man, that's going to be a blast. Followed by Matt Wynn from Flatwater Free Press, other VIP guests, and some audience Q&A. It's a free event, but space is limited, so you'll need a ticket. Get on the invite list by sending an email to thedanparsonsshow@gmail.com. Okay, here's my interview with Congressman Don Bacon. Enjoy. Well, it is my pleasure to welcome back to the Dan Parsons Show, Congressman Don Bacon. Congressman, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Man, the Huskers did pretty darn well, didn't they?
Yeah, I had to wear the colors today in honor of a great game, and it was a great way to start the season.
You bet.
It was a touch-and-go game.
Holy
Cincinnati was no pushover.
Yeah, it was. And it kept us up all late. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, let's start with the economy and tariffs. The Wall Street Journal is reporting just today that Hormel Foods, Smucker, and Ace Hardware, amongst others, said that they would raise prices because of tariffs. Large retailers like Walmart, Target, and Best Buy, according to this Wall Street Journal story, said some tariff-related price increases are already in place and more are on the way. Meanwhile, according to a report by the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, Nebraska experienced the most significant GDP loss in the nation during the first quarter of 2025 at 6.1%. So my question, Congressman, how concerned are you with President Trump's trade war and the effects on Nebraska's economy?
Well, I'm a Milton Friedman guy. I believe in free trade. Free trade gives you the best products at the best price in the most efficient manner possible. And Republicans have not believed in tariffs since the 1930s. And it didn't work in the 1930s, by the way. The Smoot-Hartley Act, two Republicans, by the way, put us from a small depression to a massive depression. And it's economics 101. When you put a tariff on products, it eventually gets put onto the consumers to pay for it. In this case, Americans are paying for this tariffs. Now, initially, a lot of the companies ate some of the cost here, and some of the countries ate some of the cost. So, and the president had tariffs on, he's had them off, he's had them on again. So it's been a little while just to figure out what the impact's going to be, but we're starting to see now the prices go up. And it's economics 101. If you put a 15% tariff on a product over time, those products are going to be 15% more expensive, and the consumers pay for it. So I think it's just a fact of life. And I don't know, and the president's like a denial on this. I know Amazon said they were going to add a cost of tariffs to, to whatever goods are being bought. Yeah. And I know the White House press secretary yesterday said that was an anti-Trump thing to do. But I think it's a factual thing, and we just got to realize that. Now, there is a time and place for tariffs. If a country is treating us unfairly, I think China fits that mode. There's a time and place for tariffs. But doing the tariffs against 80 countries creating a widespread tariff war was not what the founders ever envisioned. The founders gave this authority to the Congress, primarily the House, to start it off. And what the Congress has done over the last century, 3 different times they gave the president or the executive branch emergency powers. And so right now the president has emergency powers, but what's going on here is not emergency powers. This is policy that he's doing. And I think in the end, the courts will rule against him on this because he's really abusing the law that's there for emergency powers. I think I've already heard some state, the Supreme Court and appeals courts go after this issue. And I think this is going to be the crux of the court when they eventually rule on this. So long story short, Dan, I think we're going to see prices go up. It's just a fact. And also it's hurt us, I think, in the trade. I mean, right now we're seeing fewer and fewer exports for American farmers. We don't have a market right now, a good market for our corn and soybeans.
Yep.
You see countries are doing retribution. And so it would have been much smarter, in my view, to take 1 or 2 countries that were abusing us and be a little more methodical. But doing an 80-country trade war, it's like fighting a war on 3 fronts.
Yeah.
It worked for Germany, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to work well for us.
Yeah. Well, and it even seems like it's just retribution. He's using it for, it seems to be a game. John Hanson, president of the Nebraska Farmers Union, said recently in the press that he believes the country is facing the worst farming financial crisis since the 1980s. And so, it's going to impact us right here.
It's I'm on the ag committee, so I get my hands on a lot of data. Corn and soybean commodity prices are at an all-time low. If you factor in real dollars, going back historically, the input costs are very high, and tariffs are a part of that problem. Getting fertilizers and things like that. And so you got record high. You got high input costs, low commodity prices. We've lost a lot of markets for corn and soybeans, and so the corn and soybean farmers today are losing about 80 cents on every bushel of corn they produce. And so that's when the farm bill comes in handy because you got the crop insurance and things like that. But we need a president fighting for more exports. I don't know that a tariff war against 80 countries is conducive towards that. But we'll see. He's trying to get some trade deals, I hope. But we need more than hypothetical talk here. We need trade deals like right now, and people committing to buy corn and soybeans. In our pork and beef, it's in a different situation.
Right.
Our ranchers culled about 30% of their herds 2 or 3 years ago because of drought. So our capacity right now is about 70% of what it was. And so that means we don't have much beef going to the market right now, which means the prices are skyrocketing. That's good, I guess, if you're a rancher. Not good if you're a consumer. Once again, you're paying a lot for steaks and hamburger right now. Our meat processors are struggling because they're like a lot of ones I know are only operating 4 days right now because they just don't have the capacity of cattle going through the processing lines. So you got 2 different problems. They're totally separate, but they're both a problem for America.
Yeah. Well, as you go back into Congress, we're recording this over the holiday weekend, but you'll be back in Congress here in a few days. Any predictions on what could be done? How can Congress, as you said, I mean, originally that is the power of tariffs rested with your body. And again, you said, we're waiting on the courts to rule, but in the meantime, what can Congress do, or what should Congress do?
Theoretically, Congress could take these powers back. Of course, the president would veto it. You'd have to have enough votes. We don't have those votes right now.
Yeah.
I do believe, though, if the economic data gets more and more clear in the months to come, there's going to be less support for Congress given this tariff authority. I don't think we're there yet. A lot of on the Republican side want to give the president's strategy a time to work. I'm just based on I'm a history guy. I'm not an economist, but I read a lot. I think if we're asking for trouble with doing a tariff war like this, to think there wasn't going to be consequences is mistaken. I did see some data that right now, for every $1 of tariff, about 40 cents of it right now, or 40%, is being ate by various businesses, but 60% of it is being passed on to the consumer. And that number will probably go up over time because if you're a company, you can't eat the cost forever. You can for a little bit. And so I think that's what we're seeing right now. Now, if we get more and more economic data, like we just saw that Caterpillar, or was it John Deere, did some layoffs, and it's mainly, and they said it was because of tariffs. If we get more and more that kind of data and feedback, you're going to see more and more congressmen say, okay, let's take action. I have a bill in Congress that reinstates our authority over tariffs. It's identical to Chuck Grassley's bill in the Senate, and so it's there and it's ready. But there's not enough support for it now. But I don't know. There may be in 3 or 4 months. We'll see.
Yeah, very good. Well, let's talk about Ukraine. At least 23 people, including 4 children, were killed and dozens more wounded in Russia's deadliest onslaught on Kyiv since July. This is just a few days, just yesterday. We're recording this, but and it also damaged the European Union's office in the Ukrainian capital. This comes as the U.S. State Department approved a potential sale of air munitions and related equipment to Ukraine for an estimated cost of $825 million, the Pentagon said. I know you follow this closely. You know, your previous war experience and military experience, you're one of the people that we're looking to for hopefully some good news about how this war is going. But I guess my question, Congressman, can Ukraine still win this war?
Yes. The way they're going to have to win it, though, is to shake President Putin's willpower. Right now, he's lost over 1 million people, 1 million soldiers. But the Russians have a large tolerance for loss of their people. I mean, it's historically they're willing to lose a lot of people before they say, okay, enough's enough. But in this case, this is his war. Putin started this war. And so it'd be one thing if he was being on the defense taking these losses, but he started this war and is suffering these losses. And his economy is teetering right now. And Ukraine's doing some pretty good stuff. They're targeting their oil production in Russia. So right now, Russia's operating at about 80% of their refining capacity, which means their prices are very high for the consumers. And a lot of gas stations have 2-kilometer lines of cars waiting to get gas right now. So I mean, Ukraine has the ability to win, but it's going to take America's broad support with weapons and European Union support to break Putin's will. And what the president has done is actually has given Putin and his cronies hope, because he keeps talking about, well, let's sit down at the table 2 more weeks. We'll go 2 more weeks before we put on, secondary sanctions. And then we were not even given Ukrainians authority to use the weapons we sent them to hit proper military targets in Russia. So we're doing the same thing Biden was doing, which we condemned, right?
Yep.
So I think Trump has been very weak on this with Putin, excuse me. I think he's been good with Iran. I think he's been good with Israel. I think he's been pretty good on China. But this here, he's had a moral blind spot when it comes to Putin, and I don't understand it. And there could be 4 or 5 different reasons why. But Putin cannot be trusted. And for some reason, President Trump can't see that. And I mean, Putin has killed all of his adversaries, right, for office. He's a bad guy. He started this war. The President Trump has said multiple times, I don't understand why Ukraine wanted this war when Russia is 10 or 15 times bigger. And it makes me mad when I hear that. Mr. President, Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine's trying to defend their country. The Russians don't even see Ukraine as a country. They see them as little Russians, hillbilly Russians. The Ukrainians have had to deal with this for centuries, and they want their independence. They're tired of being abused. I just finished a book by Applebaum on the Red Famine.
Yes.
Stalin intentionally, methodically starved to death 4 million Ukrainians and did it on purpose. This is 1933. Ukrainians have had to deal with this kind of stuff for the whole history, and they want their own freedom. They want to be part of the West. They want free markets. They want democracy. They want rule of law. They want to be part of the EU. And they're a sovereign country. They should have that right to do it.
Well, and remind our maybe younger audience from you and me, Congressman, because we talked about this last time I had you on the show. I remember the day when I grew up a Reagan Republican. I remember the day when we defended democracy around the world. And so I think there's a generation behind us that maybe have forgotten that or don't know the history like you do. And so just remind our audience, Congressman, why this war is important to Americans.
Well, there's no doubt that if Putin wins here, Moldova will be next. And Putin has said he wants to restore his old borders, so we should take him at his word, right? He wants to regain the territories lost. I think the Baltic countries are very vulnerable, though they're part of NATO. General Petraeus said recently that he expects Russia to invade the Baltics because he thinks NATO and America doesn't have the willpower to stop them. And this is General Petraeus, not some gadfly general out there, right?
Yep.
And to your point, I'm a Reagan Republican. Reagan Republicans oppose tariffs, oppose protectionism.
Yep.
We were not isolationists. We believe in strong alliances. We believe in defending freedom. We like legal immigration.
Yep.
Illegal immigration is different, but legal immigration helps keep our country strong, actually.
Yep.
And we're not for price controls. We're not into buying 10% or 20% of a company's stock. This is Reagan Republicans. But what we're seeing with this new batch of Republicans, it's more like the Republicanism of the 1930s.
Yep.
Republicans in the 1930s liked tariffs. They were isolationists. They were nativists. They supported price controls. So we have Herbert Hoover Republicans here versus Ronald Reagan Republicans. And I know which side I want to be on.
Yeah. Well, me too. You mentioned the president's quote in the White House. People go to war thinking they're going to win the war, and they get their asses kicked,
and they lose their country, and they lose millions of lives. Nobody goes into a war thinking they're going to lose. They go in. I'm sure that Ukraine thought they were going to win. It's going to be, we're going to win. You're going to beat somebody that's 15 times your size. Biden shouldn't have let that happen. Biden shouldn't have. The man was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. That would have never happened. But you don't go into a war that's 15 times your size.
You've spoken out. You mentioned earlier that angers you. I think it should anger all of us who care about protecting democracy.
It's dishonest. It's either dishonest or a guy that doesn't know the history. I read the book on Zelensky, and he didn't think Putin was dumb enough to go to war. He didn't want war. He was actually a fairly pro-Russian guy. He was a comedy guy in Moscow.
Yeah.
Right. And he's always had, most Ukrainians have a lot of relations with Russians. I mean, they may not like the government, but they've got long roots. And Zelensky did not believe the reports, and it was America giving him the intelligence, saying, "Hey, Russia's going to invade you. They're massing forces outside your border." And he was sort of like, "No, they wouldn't be that dumb. That's a stupid thing to do, right?" He didn't want war, but he thought it was very improbable that it would happen. But we got to remember, Russia came within the suburbs of Kyiv before they were turned around, and it was really Russia who got their behinds kicked in this thing, and over 1 million killed or wounded soldiers right now for Russia. And so I think the president's words applied to Russia, not Ukraine, but he always seems to get it switched, and it really does anger me. It's probably done more to undermine my confidence in the president than anything else. There's a few other things that I take umbrage with too. I mean, I'm not like I like Adam Kinzinger and I like Liz Cheney, but I don't agree with them in that they oppose him on everything. I feel like I should be able to look at an issue. If the president's doing something right, praise him for it. I think he's done well with the border. I think he's done well with Iran. Things like this. There's other examples. But when something's very wrong, I cannot pretend and try to ignore it. And the president's handling of Putin and Ukraine has been a travesty thus far.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about controversial issues. This issue has been around for a long time. Let's talk about Epstein. Attorney General Pam Bondi sought to appease the MAGA base last week by handing over a trove of Jeffrey Epstein documents to the House Oversight Committee. But now we're hearing from people who are saying that the latest disclosures fall short of the transparency that President Trump's supporters were promised on the campaign trail. So what's your thinking about these Epstein files and this whole Epstein mess?
Attorney General Bondi has done some things very well, but this has been a
cluster?
cluster. I won't even finish the word for you from the get-go. First of all, she said she had all these files on her desk with all the names. So she raised the expectations out there. This is like back in March timeframe. And then they come back and go, oh, there's actually no names. She overpromised and woefully underdelivered. And a lot of folks were rightfully upset. They thought they were going to see names of people who abused, underage girls. And it wasn't there. I'm for just give it all over, hand it all over, and make it all transparent. I know there's some concerns that maybe there's some victims in their names. Maybe we could black out the names of the victims. But other than that, it should be totally transparent and put it out there. And I frankly think there's probably not a lot of embarrassing data in there, because if there had been data on Trump, it would have been released by Biden. If there was a lot of data on, say, Clinton, it would have been leaked by now by this administration. Yep. So I personally think if there's any really embarrassing data in there, it would have been leaked a long time ago. But for that, I think it should be totally opened up with maybe the victims' names, blackened out or something like that. And just give it to the media, give it to Congress, and let's move on.
Well, and I think, me personally, I'll speak for myself. I know others have voiced this. What is being forgotten are those victims, those young children, those girls who were victimized, maybe dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And some have spoken out now. Those are the folks that are being forgotten in all of this. And again, I go back to, because I'm a political nerd, and I go back to the campaign, and there was a fairly significant slice of voters who were attracted to Donald Trump because he was going to expose the deep state. All of this was going to be finally open to transparency, and that's what he promised, and a lot of people supported that. And so now for him and his attorney general to just deny all of that, it seems like they're living in a different world.
The FBI director currently and the deputy director for the FBI both dwelled on this during the campaign, that we need to get the names out, that there's a client list supposedly. And where Pam Bondi screwed up, she said she had them on her desk and was going to release it all. And then I don't think she knew what she had on her desk yet, frankly, but I'm guessing. But at this point, with all the mistakes being made and all the overpromises, give everything over to the media and give it all over to the Congress, and let's move on.
Well, and again, what role does Congress have? Again, just reading from this report that the Oversight Committee was given some documents. Obviously the Republican Party is in control of Congress and can make those decisions of what hearings there's going to be. But again, as you go back here to Congress, what role should your colleagues have in this issue?
Well, there is oversight, and there's oversight. What happened to the criminal that when he committed suicide? There should be oversight. How did that? Why did the jail let that happen? They knew he was suicidal. So there's oversight responsibilities here. Obviously, we don't prosecute. If there's data there, that's why they had a grand jury to see if there was anybody else that could prosecute. So I don't think the House or the Senate can impede on the judicial system per se. But I think in this case, it's about having transparency.
Yeah.
And I think if the Congress, if they get it, they should release it. Or if I was the president, I would just release everything and protect the victims.
Yeah. Okay, as we wrap up, I'm sure, first of all, we haven't talked since you announced that you're leaving Congress. And so, first of all, congratulations on your service.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service. Even though I don't live in your district, I've followed your career and appreciate it very much. And so I know you're getting lots of questions because you don't appear to me to be ready to walk off into the sunset and go put your feet up on the beach and do nothing. Maybe I'm sure you would like a little break from all of this, but when I asked you about what's next for you prior to you announcing your retirement, you indicated in words, and I had a lot of people comment on this to me afterwards. You made some comments about how maybe you were better suited from a leadership position in an executive branch role. And so my question is, would you ever consider running for governor of Nebraska?
I would, but not this next cycle.
Okay.
Jim Pillen's been my friend, and we've worked together on a lot of things. And I won't deny people could, ask me about it and were encouraging, but Jim Pillen's my friend, and we're working together on a few things. Like, for example, we have this ethanol plant that poisoned the water down in Meade.
Yep.
I've been working with him on getting this cleaned up. We're close to having that done. I look forward to bragging on the work that he helped make happen. I felt like the people of Meade, they needed somebody on their behalf battling for this and getting this done. What happened was the ethanol plant took seed corn that has chemicals in it and used it in the ethanol, and then put the byproduct in the ground. Normally you feed that to cattle, but seed corn poisons that byproduct. You got to use field corn, right? And so they got the seed corn at a discount, so they were cheap. They were scamming, the ethanol plant was. But long story short, the water's polluted, and we got to go in there and fix this. And so I know he's been working very hard on that. So there's a few things that we've been working well together on, and I support him. But eventually, I'd like to. I am more of an executive. I mean, I commanded 5 times in the Air Force, commanded 2 of the 3 largest bases in the U.S. Air Force. And legislation's a different kind of leadership, and you got to get 218 people to vote for something of a bill that I have. And then you got to get it in the Senate, and then you got to get it to the president. And I've had more bills passed in the last Congress than any other congressman, right? Number one of 435 for getting things done. But it's not. I prefer running stuff, and I would love to. I love working with teams and leading teams. I like being the coach, if I can. So we'll see what kind of opportunities God gives. I always have had my plan, and then God opens up a different door often, and then you got to be prepared for it. I never thought I'd run for Congress, and when I retired from the military, and within 6 months of retiring from the military, I'm a candidate for Congress. Never saw it coming when I retired from the military. And so I just got to be ready. God has his plan, and I just want to be ready for whatever it is. I do look forward to staying involved nationally. I want to help out candidates that I believe in. I like the governor of Virginia, for example. I like Nikki Haley. Yeah. There's candidates out there I want to support. I think they represent traditional Republican views and conservative views, Milton Friedman type economics.
Yep. And
so I want to get involved. I want to do more media, I think, if I can. And defend the values that I believe in. And I look forward to working here in town and coming home at night. I've been doing 4 days a week in D.C. for about 10 years now. Yeah. And so I'd like to see my family more. But we'll see what doors open. And I'd like to continue serving if there's a place for me. And I'll be content whatever God opens up. I'm a believer. I know God's got a plan. And I just want to be faithful to whatever those doors are.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Thanks for taking time on this holiday weekend to chat with our audience. I know we appreciate it very much, and best of luck as you continue to work hard for the district. And you have an open mic anytime you want it here, Congressman. And so appreciate your time and appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Congressman, for your time today. I deeply appreciate it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show. Leave a comment below on our YouTube channel. I promise I'll reply. Oh, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button. Thanks to the Parsons team who made this show possible. Chase Porter, our executive producer, Ike Samanis, producer and graphic design, Penology Tech Solutions for their technical help and equipment, and Kim Remington, Parsons PR's Director of Operations. And thanks to each of you for your support and for tuning in. Okay, now go do good things. I'm Dan Parsons.